Army and the Palestinian Health Ministry, Israel has killed a Palestinian teenager during an overnight Israeli operation in the Askar refugee camp in Nablus. The Israeli military says its reserve forces were conducting an operation when a Palestinian allegedly threw an explosive device at soldiers, prompting them to return fire and kill the individual. No Israeli soldiers were injured, however. The Palestinian Health Ministry identified the victim as 19-year-old Hassan Ahmed Jamil Musa, saying he was shot during the raid and later handed over to Palestinian medical teams, already deceased. Local officials in Askar said the raid occurred around midnight, and violence in the West Bank has escalated sharply since the outbreak of the Gaza war in October 2023. According to Palestinian authorities, more than 1,006 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank by Israeli forces or settlers since the conflict began, while according to Israeli officials, 43 Israelis, including soldiers, have been killed in attacks during that same period. Okay, now joining us is Gedaliah Blum, a Middle East affairs expert, joining us live from Eli in Israel. Thank you very much for joining us here on the program. What more can you tell us about this violence that, of course, is ongoing in the West Bank? I do have to correct our figure. 1,500 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank since October 2023. How does Israel justify this enormous disparity in fatalities in the Palestinian territory?
I mean, first and foremost, when you're fighting against jihad, you don't take a score. This isn't some sort of level playing field. In fact, you have the army, you have law enforcement who are going after threats against not only civilians, Jewish civilians, Israeli civilians, but also Palestinian Authority civilians as well. And I'll tell you what most people don't understand, and what I want to share with you and your viewers, is that much of the intelligence that Israeli authorities get when they go on these raids, when they go on these arrests, come directly from the intelligence services of the Palestinian Authority. And the reason is because the Palestinian Authority within their controlled region is also fighting a war against Hamas. They fought against Hamas and lost in Gaza after the elections in early 2006, after Israel left. Once Israel left, the Palestinian Authority officials were thrown off rooftops by Hamas. Hamas has a stronghold and is very popular within Judea and Samaria under the Palestinian Authority. And the only reason why Mahmoud Abbas is still in power after he's dealing with he's in his I think he's in his 19th year of his 4-year term. The only reason why he's still in power is because of these nighttime raids, which are quashing the Hamas operatives on the ground that would pose a threat to his power in of itself. So when it comes down to any kind of scorecard, I don't believe there is a scorecard. I believe that the only thing that we should be looking at is Hamas growing, or are they being held back within Judea and Samaria and creating another terrorist state just like they did in Gaza?
Gedaliah, what we do know about this individual who was killed last night, identified as a 19-year-old Hassan Ahmed Jamil Musa, he was shot during the raid and handed over to Palestinian medical teams, already deceased. Of course, no Israeli soldiers were also killed or injured in this confrontation. Does this point to any sort of excessive force going on or not?
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't understand the question. If somebody comes and is engaged in an armed robbery, and police come and shoot dead the other man with a gun who's a clear and present danger, because the police weren't killed either, that means there was a disproportionate. No, absolutely not. You're dealing with a society that raises children not on to be a doctor, not to see their heroes as basketball players, but as martyrs, as shaheeds. So a 19-year-old who's growing through through his whole childhood and grows up. 19 is still a kid as far as I'm concerned, even though they are obviously considered an adult. But to be able to die trying to kill or successfully killing Jews, for them is a very high honor. In fact, the Palestinian Authority will most likely put his family on a monthly stipend for his, for his participation in the quote-unquote resistance. So this is not something about disproportionality.
No.
This is something that this kid most likely knew he was going to die by trying to throw a bomb at trained military force.
Gedaliah, of course, since October 2023, violence has been escalating in the West Bank from both sides. Of course, the Israeli army and also, of course, Israeli settlers that critics say are empowered. What are your thoughts on this and the perception which it gives on the world stage about the state of Israel?
All right, my thoughts on this is, making some sort of, equation with violence between both sides. I'll tell you this right now.
Okay.
You could watch Israeli army soldiers walk through an Arab village within Judea and Samaria under the Palestinian Authority, and you see the civilians walk around like everything is normal. They're going shopping, they're walking their kids to school, and they don't even bother with the soldiers. Why? Because the soldiers are not targeting them. They have no fear of the soldiers because they understand the soldiers are there in order to go after those who are being violent. Now, on the other hand, if an Arab was walking through with a weapon through a Jewish community, you would find that they wouldn't be walking normally, walking their kids. They would be running home. They would be finding safety and then calling the army or police in order to report what this person is. There is absolutely no equation between violence between those who are seeking to harm civilians and other people and those who are trying to protect civilians by targeting those who wish harm on others.
Gedaliah, do stay with us. We have further updates coming out of the region next up. With the United Nations Security Council preparing to vote on a US-backed resolution endorsing President Donald Trump's Gaza ceasefire proposal, Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar is making his position clear. Saar says Israel will not allow the creation of what he calls a Palestinian terror state near its major population centers, stressing that such an entity would pose a direct security threat. The proposed resolution supports Trump's comprehensive ceasefire plan, which outlines a roadmap for stabilizing Gaza after the conflict. Under the plan, Gaza would be handed over to an international stabilization force with governance managed by an apolitical Palestinian administration. Oversight would come from a newly formed board of peace chaired by Trump himself. The Security Council is expected to debate and vote on the ceasefire tomorrow, a decision that could shape the next phase of the region's political and security landscape. Gedaliah joins us once again. Israel's Foreign Minister, Gideon Sa'ar, of course, says Israel will not allow what he calls a Palestinian terror state, but the United Nations resolution explicitly proposes an apolitical, internationally supervised administration in Gaza. Why does Israel reject even an internationally monitored Palestinian governing structure?
Well, number one is that the Trump administration right now is finding it very difficult to put together a coalition, because one of the requirements before anything is done is to disarm and to remove Hamas from power. Now, what they are finding is easy to find. Indonesia is looking to bring in 20,000 troops, but those troops aren't going to be mandated in disarming Hamas. They're going to be involved in overseeing the health and the construction of Gaza. So what we're dealing with right now is that Hamas is actually have a stronghold in Gaza beyond the yellow line, and they are not going to disarm. In fact, they're doing the exact opposite. So there's no UN mandate that is going to disarm and create peace within Gaza. So it's nice to have these headlines to talk about an apolitical leadership in Gaza. But until somebody's willing to step up and disarm Hamas, these are all fairy tales. And Israel cannot deal or gamble with taking chances on the international community's fairy tales when they don't have any real skin in the game.
Gideon, just briefly, we're running out of time. Of course, when Donald Trump announced this ceasefire deal, it was applauded not just throughout the world, but of course in Israel as well. Seeing how the first stage has worked in practice, what are your hopes for the second phase moving forward?
I mean, the first phase was great, where we got all the 20 hostages who are alive home. Thank God. We also are getting most of the deceased hostages home. I believe there's still 3 more. The next stage is right away. It is about disarming Hamas, and I don't think that's going to happen. But I do see the reconstruction within the yellow line that is under control of Israel. It is a bit controversial. I know that Israeli officials are saying that they don't want to see any reconstruction until Hamas disarms. But there is something to say about reconstruction within the yellow line, which Hamas does not control, to be able to highlight the contrast between what it's like to have a land not in control with Hamas that's being rebuilt, and a land that is not being rebuilt under Hamas. And I think that could really lead to some significant political pressure on Hamas to lay down his arms and to remove power from its own people, who could see right over the fence, over the yellow line, that life is going to continue, life is going to be better without Hamas.
Yes, Gideon, do stay with us as we have further updates coming out of Israel this time. And the Israeli High Court of Justice has annulled Justice Minister Yavi